What's the buzz? If you remember that intro, you get senior discount. We gotta talk. I know you've seen the title and everything, but this video was overdue. Since basically the inception of What's the Buzz, this channel, I've had this video planned out at some point. At first, it was gonna be for 10,000 subs, then it was gonna be for 50. Then I tried doing it on my very short-lived Patreon page. After making a whopping $2 from that, I decided to take it elsewhere. So I tried to do it on the live streams, which some of you might have seen, but I'm basically talking about a certain tour. Not a house tour, not a world tour. God damn it. Welcome to the official What's the Buzz CD tour.
Holy moly, you don't know me.
But first, a little backstory. I was mentioning some subscriber milestones earlier, and somewhat recently the channel hit a pretty big one. 100,000. I still can't believe I have this thing, by the way. And I know YouTuber subscriber specials are so like 2012, but I'm pretty certain this is the only milestone I'll ever hit on YouTube, so I kind of want to commemorate it. But just a quick announcement before we really get going. I'm officially done with live streaming on YouTube. Long story short, if you were a frequent watcher, this isn't about you. YouTube streaming is in this weird like limbo state where a viewer with very low dedication to you, such as a shorts viewer, can hop into your live stream and basically say whatever they want. And that had me crashing out a couple times, I think justifiably so. So to create a little bit of a safer environment for myself and for viewers that actually care, I will be moving to Twitch for live streaming at twitch.tv/whatsthebuzz. I also just want to say thanks for this. I know YouTube Shorts really made the game easy to get subscribers and stuff. So whatever you're here for, I'm glad you're here. Thanks. But now for the main purpose of the video. My CD collection isn't the most insane, I'll admit that. I'll be honest, you couldn't f me to count each of them, but let's say the number is about 100. 100 CDs that I have in my collection. And a quick background on why I started collecting CDs. Basically, it's because I became a big music fan before streaming services really took over. So when I bought my first few CDs, it was really the only way I could listen to high quality music audio in like a car, for example. But also, I tricked myself into thinking that this is genuinely supporting the artists I like, and I kind of just like holding them. I think it's pretty cool to have like a sound-based art form in physical format. I don't know. This video is going to be insanely long, and I don't really have an order for these. I'm just pulling them out as they come. But the description will have each album that I talk about listed, and you could just jump to that if you're really interested in it. The first one I have here is actually a very recent purchase. It's Kanye West and Kid Cudi, Kids See Ghosts, or self-titled by Kids See Ghosts. You can see it's still wrapped up. That's probably the only example of that you'll see. I actually use my CDs and listen to them. They're not in mint condition or anything. They're well worn. They're field tested. They're battle scarred. But anyway, I don't know why I bought this one other than the fact that I think it came out on my birthday. Shout out to Amazon for cracking it, if you could see there. Kanye West and Kid Cudi are in different cars coming at a full speed collision at each other, and the explosion is the sound of this album, basically. I've kind of grown to not really listen to it anymore, but I still think it's pretty cool, and definitely an interesting summer when this dropped. Following that up, it's one of 2 Drake albums I own, and this is technically a mixtape. If you're reading this, it's too late. Widely considered Drake's best project. I can see why. It's mostly just gritty Drake that Kendrick doesn't really like, but it's just a fun project with simple beats, simple trap production, and some extremely catchy lyrics and hooks on this thing. If we were to include this as an album, it'd probably be my favorite one as well. Now we're following that up with Tech 9 Something Else. I was a pretty big Tech 9 fan at some point, I would say in the mid 2010s, but I did see him live in 2022, and that was a pretty cool show. And Something Else is one of his few albums that I actually enjoy, despite Tech 9 fans might know that every one of Tech 9's albums is bloated as fuck. But I think this one gets a pass. It has more hits than misses. The big song on this one being Fragile featuring Kendrick Lamar. Tech 9 is just sometimes fun to listen to, a good pump up rapper, but he can also spit a very like thoughtful and heartfelt verse. It's a good album. Following up, we have Jay-Z's Blueprint. I've been seeing a lot of stuff online about how Jay-Z's about to be canceled soon, so I hope this video comes out before that. Blueprint, of course, is Jay-Z's best album, but also the first one in his like legendary series, highlighted by a lot of good Kanye production on it and an Eminem feature. I know that was a big deal, and I think something happened on the day that this dropped. Not sure. But this is Jay-Z in his prime, man. Just braggadocious, very slick, very confident flows, and a very classic album cover. I love this album cover. So somehow in my few moves that I've had in the last 10 years, I've lost the case to this CD. But the first person I see comment and guess what this CD is without the actual album cover, you win. something. Oh man, Gorillaz Demon Days, literally a classic album, like one of my favorites ever. Blending so many different styles like rap and rock and EDM and a lot of pop in such a tasteful, futuristic way. This album still sounds futuristic even though it came out in like what, 2005? Classic artwork on this. I get messages from people sometimes saying like, hey, I'm stuck listening to rap, I'd like to branch out. This isn't necessarily branching out. I mean, you have an MF Doom feature on here, but it's a step in the right direction. So if you've never listened to this, please check it out. Another amazing classic album. I hope I'm not going through all great albums right now and then we're gonna be kind of like screwed later. Travis Scott's Rodeo, easily Travis Scott's best album, with the really cool artwork that he was doing with the action figure back then. Super trippy, forward thinking, but also kind of like emphasizing the Texas and the Houston sound that he comes from. This is one of the biggest what ifs, but not what if Travis Scott blew up. No, like what if Travis Scott didn't blow up and he still stayed in this kind of mindset and wasn't motivated to make like chart topping hits. I kind of wish he didn't. What the okay, this is what I mean. This collection's crazy. Greatest hits by Men at Work. I think this is mostly because me and my friends back in university, we really liked the songs Who Could It Be Now and Land Down Under. Kind of cheeky Australian male vocalists, quirky sounding instrumentals, I guess. Just listen to the song Who Can It Be Now and you'll understand. Run the Jewels 3. This is the only Run the Jewels CD I have, despite me being a really massive fan of them. I still think this might be my favorite Run the Jewels album just because the production is so consistent on this one. Not saying that the production lacks in any of the albums. I mean, LP's an absolute genius, but something about this album, song to song, it really worked well structurally or sequentially, I guess. Just Killer Mike and LP bringing out so much energy considering their age. Not to sound weird, but like you wouldn't expect these two guys in like the later stages of their career, and then years later after this, Killer Mike wins a Grammy deservedly. Just great front to back. Awesome Danny Brown feature on this. Migos Culture 2, literally my least favorite in the Culture series. I don't know why I specifically have this one. I think Culture 1 and 3 are beyond this one, but this one still has a lot of good stuff. Rest in peace to Takeoff, first of all. A lot of bloated albums actually have hidden classics within them. Not saying that Migos pumped out a classic with this specific album, but if you cut down some of the filler, and there's a lot of it on here, you actually get a really strong set of tracks. The Game's Red album, funnily enough, this was one of the albums that got me really into rap. And this is kind of like a reason why I have a soft spot for The Game as a rapper. I know he has like his antics and whatnot, and he's very brash, but as a rapper, I think he's very underrated. And executively produced by Pharrell, that's news to me. Just an extremely gritty, aggressive rapper who actually has some pretty good wordplay sometimes. His charisma is what sells me onto his music. You having fun yet? The Weeknd's Dawn FM. I had a brief conversation with Path Reacts about this album. From what I understand, their first review was this album. My second review was this album as well. So we started around the same time, but man, this is my favorite Weeknd album. It's such a nice, chill, wintry vibe. It's not as upbeat as After Hours, but I think that does wonders for Weeknd's voice to really kind of like flourish on these tracks, especially on songs with like heavier production on it. Out of Time is gonna be a song I'm listening to like on my deathbed one day. And I have another Weeknd CD right here, but this one might be different. You might notice a certain little marker scratch on it and also a crack in the case. Let me tell you about this. This is a single CD. I've never bought one of these in my life. I know they do this for vinyl, but I didn't know they do it for CD. Basically, when Heartless came out, I think it was late 2019, he announced a very cheap, I think $2 CD that he was selling on his website that was autographed. And this is before Blinding Lights came out, and it was already on here, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, it took months and months to get to me because of course COVID started. And then it got to me and it had a crack on it, even though the signature's still there. Also, I'm missing the CD apparently. What's happening? Logic's The Incredible True Story. Try that acronym out. Really cool cover spread here. And the inside's dope. You know, Logic's never been necessarily this like technical, crazy conceptual rapper. I don't think he would even say this, but on this album and his first album, he really kind of like kept the pace up. Nice, speedy, quick flows, cool production, really borrowing from other rappers as well. And just overall like a kind of a cute, nerdy concept of this album. Here's one that a couple of you probably never heard of. Snoop Dogg's Bush, his 2015 album that's executively produced by Pharrell Williams. Nice, short, 10 tracks, very to the point. Just nice, groovy, summery, dancey vibes. Hot take, maybe. I don't consider Snoop Dogg like a top rapper of all time, but that man can bring a certain vibe to it because he has a very cool, unique voice. And I think it shines really well in production like this. Also, some dope features on it. A really really good Rick Ross feature, a really good Kendrick feature. So the weather's getting nice, so this is a perfect album for that. Also, if you smoke weed, which I don't. Oh, Buzz, where are the Kanye albums? Here we go. The College Dropout by Kanye West, his debut album. Do I need to even talk about this one? I will say the older I get, the more this album kind of grows on me. Something about slow jams is never going to get old to me. Also, if you guys want a College Dropout t-shirt, go to KanyeWest.com. I'm sure that's definitely still up. Right next to the Yeezy porn link. Woo! Underrated ScHoolboy Q Blank Face LP. Gritty, dark, mysterious. Q definitely in his spooky bag on this album, and I'm pretty sure this is the only time he really did something like this. His music has dark turns for sure, especially on Blue Lips, but this was kind of like he was portraying a character, and I'm gonna assume he was just inspired by Kendrick's T-Pab that came out a year prior to kind of make something that's more like an artistic statement rather than just like a rap album. But this thing is fantastic, man. Very underrated and very cool coloring and packaging on here. We're going all over the place. Kanye West's Late Registration. I feel similarly to it as I do College Dropout, but I like this album quite a bit better. I just think Kanye's rapping on this album was much more like interesting and catchy and memorable. Man, Touch the Sky with Lupe is one of my all-time tracks, so for sure love this one. Great album. This next one is gonna be one of the few detours we're gonna have from rap albums. Nothing crazy, just one of the greatest albums ever made by one of the greatest bands ever. The Beatles' Abbey Road. I got into the Beatles in a certain point in my life where I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Mainly I'm saying that because this is when I was writing a lot of music. So I kind of wanted to get inspired by like what the core essence of modern pop is. And I think this album and a lot of Beatles music actually contains that. Do I even have to talk about the album? Like the medley at the end of the album is great. The like more catchier tunes at the beginning. Something, Come Together, Here Comes the Sun, do. And to respect the Beatles, I kind of have to put something of similar like cultural importance next to it. Lil Yachty's Lil Boat. I'm not a huge fan of this tape, although I do kind of miss the summer when this came out. But the idea of owning a SoundCloud mixtape on CD was just too good to pass. Songs like Minnesota, bruh, goes hard to this day. Lupe Fiasco's The Cool. I guess this is a good time to mention. I know I have some CDs in the back here that I gotta talk about too, so I won't forget. His sophomore album, very underrated. It has one of my favorite songs of all time on it, being Paris, Tokyo. I saw a tweet that's like, what's a groove you could live in for the rest of your life or something like that. And the vibe that beat gives me is like hopeful, shit'll be okay. And I really love that song. Super cool CD in this here too. Another Tech 9 album here. This is his Collabos Strangeulation. I'm pretty big into rap labels, especially like 2010s onwards. Tech 9's Strange music label kind of held a candle up to the best ones, especially at this time. Yeah, it was a little bit of like fast rapping, edgy rapping, but it was pretty entertaining for the time. People like Ritz, Murs, ScHoolboy, Mayday were on the label at this point. A pretty good collective, I'll say. J. Cole with KOD, his 2018 album, and one of my favorite Cole albums actually. I don't know if it's because of the time it came out or the brevity of the album. It's pretty short how much I remember it. I still like songs like KOD and ATM and Motivate, Kevin's Heart, Brackets. Some great tracks on here. 1985 and Window Pane. Some good stuff. One of Cole's best, very like overhated album. Probably one of the most insane album covers. It's Tyler the Creator's Cherry Bomb. Now you're probably more familiar with a different album cover for this album, but I believe there was 4 different ones he released with this one. But I remember I really wanted the OG cover, so I kept going to Walmart to try and find it, and it never came out. So they only had this one, and I ended up buying it. But a really cool paperback feel to the cover. I think most of Tyler's albums do that. That's the back cover. I've said this a couple times in videos, but this was such a necessary step for Tyler to make this album. He really explored everything he was able to do past rap, which led him to a Flower Boy, which led him to an Igor. I think it helped him out a lot. Travis Scott's Utopia, and probably the cheapest like packaging I've ever seen. I guess no one really buys CDs anymore, so why would the label spend money on plastic ones when they could just make paper ones? But I do remember this CD is really cool looking, and I do really like the design on it. Utopia. I never thought that there would be a Travis Scott album that I don't go back to, and that's one of them. But I do own the CD. Mac Miller's Watching Movies with the Sound Off. I believe it's the first one of the Mac albums that I have that we're talking about. I can't really show one side of the cover because it's literally a naked woman, but the other part is very trippy, psychedelic, very representative of how the music actually is on this album. I do love this album because it was a forward step into Mac's more artistic and deeper music, but unfortunately also a much deeper step into his drug habit, which was his demise, unfortunately. So mixed feelings. Lil Uzi Vert, LUV Is Rage 2. Uzi really hasn't topped this album yet, right? I mean, Pink Tape was okay, Eternal Take was okay, but this is probably the best album like front to back. Lots of hits on this album, especially EXO Tour Life. But it kind of reminds me of like the ending of the SoundCloud era when all these dudes like from the 2016 freshman list started being like mega stars. Cool album though. I'll do a 2-for-1 here just because they were next to each other. These are both Flower Boy by Tyler the Creator, except this is actually the OG cover, I believe, before he went with this one. You can see the back covers are the same, so I guess this one was the OG. I know this one's iconic, but I kind of prefer this one. We know how much Flower Boy meant to Tyler. I mean, it literally changed the trajectory of his career. You could say he became a pop star after this. Possibly the most good songs per capita on this album, I guess, compared to the rest. It's a great album, man. Yeah, I'm realizing there'll be a few of these. So this is a CD I got from this feller that was performing at the same show I was, and he just gave me this, and he said he made like, I don't know how many of these CDs, like he made a limited amount of them, like hand painted and everything. And I thought that was really cool, and it was really like dope of him. Did I listen to the album? No, but I think it's pretty cool. Okay, Michael Jackson #1s. I mean, I love Michael Jackson. I guess, oh yes, I realize now. I remember now why I bought it. There was a time where my mom and I were sharing a car a lot. I just didn't feel right with leaving Atrocity Exhibition by Danny Brown in the car while she's driving to work. So I bought this one for, yeah, myself, but also to put something in when she's driving because she really likes Michael Jackson's music as well. So shout out to moms. I was kidding about Atrocity Exhibition. I don't actually have that CD. I do. One of my favorite pieces I own, I guess. As you can see, the corners being absolutely destroyed. Such a cool cover art for such an insane album. This album is an experience, one of my favorites, and I'll say Danny Brown's best. Super cool album, and made 30 bands in 30 minutes. Sticking with the purple theme for this next one, Graduation by Kanye West. Stadium Status is what this album is and what it sounds like. It sounded like Kanye wanted to do a world tour where people in Japan and Brazil and Germany, everyone can sing his songs. And it definitely worked because I remember hearing Stronger on Serbian radio back where I grew up. Classic album? Yeah, I think so. Wale's the album about nothing. I think my fandom of Wale is constituted on the fact that he replied to one of my tweets in like grade 7. That's more than a lot of rappers did for me, you know? No, but for real, this album's actually pretty good. I never really understood the Seinfeld inspiration behind it, mainly because I've never seen Seinfeld. Maybe I need to actually love this album even more, but I think it's pretty great, and it's Wale's best work in my opinion. Some cool features from SZA before she was SZA that we know nowadays. You got Usher on here, you got J. Cole. Another Tyler album, Wolf, which I've recently realized might be my favorite one. It's not his best, but it's probably my favorite one. I have the most memories attached to this album. Just some coming of age stories, I guess. Pretty cool stuff. Very rough around the edges album. Super funny though. It has a lot of charm and spirit in it. You can tell by the album cover. And this was like the last album where like it really felt like Odd Future was still taking over the world. Ooh man, I pulled this one out and it felt like I pulled a trophy out. That's Aquemini by Outkast, like their best album. I think I have a few more Outkast albums, but man, the colorfulness of this album cover and the CD and the packaging speaks volumes about how amazing this album is, how interesting, how vibrant, how groovy, jazzy, soulful, everything, man. And these dudes were super young making this album too. I think like maybe 20-ish. One of the greatest ever. Shout out to Outkast, man. Another one of my like personal favorites, Mac Miller's The Divine Feminine. All I'll say about this album is God is Fair, the final track on this album, is literally like sex in music form. I don't know if I can say that. Nem, Marshall Mathers LP. I know it's funny to make fun of Eminem in 2024, but this album's absolutely fantastic. Eminem's rapping was in its prime form, very energetic, funny, but also supporting this story that he's telling about his come up that borders between like cartoonish and realistic. Like you don't know what's real and what's not, but you're hoping that none of it's real because of some of the insane stuff he's saying. And we made it to the final one in the first box. This is Watch the Throne by Kanye and Jay-Z. Bro, look at this. This is insane packaging. The concept of this album was lavishness, wealth, being way too rich, and you can tell by the packaging and the gilded cover. That's the message that's coming across. I think as a collab album, it's pretty weak considering the two titans that are on this album, but it still has some good like fun tracks on it. But I realized I'd never seen this album in person until I walked into this dusty record store like 7 years ago, and I saw this, like my face reflecting in this with the label saying used, $10. Take my money. I'll take the CD. Batch number 2. All right. It's time to get these guys out of the way. I've been hesitant because I know the clownery that'll happen at me for admitting this, but I am a fan of the K-pop group BTS. I guess to the point of owning 2 CDs, and both of them were gifts. First one being Love Yourself Her, second one being Love Yourself Tear. And I'd like to focus on Tear at first. First of all, the packaging is like really cool for this stuff. They have a whole booklet with photos of the members that's a little bit sus for me to like flip through. But I know we think K-pop is just like silly, goofy, colorful music video, which it is to some extent. But BTS kind of perfected the language barrier crossing for me. Their expertise in the different genres they dabble in makes an album like this really good to listen to. You got soulful music, R&B music, really catchy pop music, and of course the backbone of BTS is hip-hop. I don't know why I'm trying to sell you like one of the most wealthy bands in the world, but yeah, this is just an admittance that I like their music, at least these 2 albums. Another quick feature is Mac Miller's Faces mixtape, bootleg CD that I bought 7-8 years ago. Listen, I know this officially came out and there's official vinyls and stuff like that. Trust me, I own merch, so I'm more than made up for owning this. I talked about it in a recent video. This is a fantastic mixtape. Future's DS2, a modern trap classic. I'm putting it next to Rodeo. I'm putting it next to Culture, and this one's in the middle. It's just the album where Future really clicked on me. I liked Honest, but this one where like the druggy vibe and like the repetitive production and the hypnotizing stuff really worked for me. Of course, credits to Metro Boomin. By the way, really cool purple CD, super dope. Another Mac Miller album here, Circles. It's one of those albums I really can't listen to because I get depressed. Just kind of the sad story of a man that's worked his ass off and achieved so much, feeling like he's overworked himself and he's now exhausted and empty. It kind of made me feel like, what's the point in really hustling and working if you're just gonna end up like sad at the end? But I remember getting this CD. I don't know how blank it is, it's so pretty. And I remember getting this CD right around the time the pandemic started, so it was hitting hard. It's Dr. Dre's 2001, The Chronic 2001, is that what it's called? Bruh, look at this CD. This shit looked like a PlayStation 1 game CD. Dre's best album in my opinion. Some of his best production, some of his best features and verses on here. Of course, enhanced by like late 90s Snoop Dogg and Exhibit and Eminem, of course. Really great West Coast album, great West Coast music. Another West Coast album. I know Earl doesn't really scream West Coast and he's not hopping on a DJ Mustard beat. Yeah, it's Earl Sweatshirt's Doris. Columbia was really going off with the packaging on these Odd Future albums. I know Some Rap Songs is a better album, but I go back to this one more. I really like the way Earl was rapping around this time, and I really like the way he was meshing with the features, and the production was unique for me at the time. It was kind of an experience entering this like really dark era of rap. There was this like golden age of cloudy, heady, druggy, but also super conscious rap that was coming around at this time, and I think Earl was definitely a part of that. Quick shout out to another Mac Miller album, Swimming, his last one before he passed. Cute little sushi. Just some nice little funky songs on here, groovy, more singer-songwriter than rappy. Great stuff from Mac Miller as always, and it sucks that he had to pass for people to really start appreciating it. Oh man, I remember trading a friend from high school for this album, ScHoolboy Q's Oxymoron. Bro, it just turned 10 years old and this is one of my favorite albums. Another West Coast album too. Just super like swagger, confident, but also the concept of it being Q making it by selling this stuff that was slowly killing him, and the juxtaposition of that, the Oxymoron. Such great production on here, and this might be my favorite Q album. I've been called a Kendrick Glazer, but I don't own his demo album on CD or anything. Yo, no glaze intended, but Kendrick's demo is better than some dude's like actual studio albums. Just super dusty, kind of creepy vibes on this thing. You could tell it's like a transitional period between T-Pab and Damn, I guess, because that's when it came out. But just sound wise as well, like kind of departing the jazzy stuff and even including some trap drums in here. I think this was a big one for Kendrick fans, realizing that he's not just gonna stick to the sound he did on T-Pab. Whoa there, dumbass. Seems like you're forgetting something. In the last month, I've been called a Kendrick Glazer like 50,000 times, and I almost forgot to put these in the video. Not gonna dwell on this too long, but we got Good Kid, Mad City, one of the most reliable albums of all time. We got To Pimp a Butterfly. I wrote it in my album of the year review. It's like a mastery of combining cultural impact with like a beautiful musical experience. It's just fantastic. Damn, the only trouble Damn has is the fact that it's rubbing shoulders with these two albums. Other than that, it's damn near perfect to me. It's a fantastic listen. And then we got Mr. Morale. which is so real that it's kind of difficult to listen to at times. Yeah, I didn't mean to forget these CDs, but yeah, back to the video. In a hard day's night. Another Beatles album. All I'm gonna say about this album is two things. Amazing album cover, very iconic. And also, And I Love Her is one of the most beautiful love songs ever written, and it's on this album, and I fucking love it. Shout out to the Beatles, except the bad shit they did. Don't shout that out. I'm honestly shocked at how many Mac albums I own, but Good AM came out at a special time for me. It was really when I was starting a new chapter in life, and seemingly Mac Miller did as well, but very sonically super nice and light album, but some really tragic lyrics on this. Just listen to Perfect Circle. Ooh, my favorite album from 2022, Pusha T's It's Almost Dry. Very simple CD. Pusha T doing what he does best, but this time half the album is produced by Pharrell and half of it's produced by Ye. You can't ask for better like executive production. No matter how much he gets praised nowadays, I'll always say Pusha T's underrated and one of my favorite rappers ever. Oh man, it's Yeezus but for white girls. I'm just saying that because of the cover. Post Malone's Beer Box and Bentley's. Very pop rap blendy, but some really good and catchy choruses on this. It was a very good summer heartbreak album, I'll tell you that. I know Post has like changed directions now in this music, but this one's a certified class. Another underrated West Coast album, Ty Dolla $ign's Free TC. I know Ty got a lot of attention because of Vultures, and before that he was mostly known as a feature guy, but this as an album is really, really strong. I mean, you got like pop rap songs here and like some really like sweet R&B, but it's a good listen front to back. I really like this album. Shout out to Ty Dolla $ign. Woo! Deadmau5, While One Is Less Than Two. Ambient electronic music. My only CD that's of this genre. Another quick reference to the conversation with Path is that we both had a similar experience with mostly listening to electronic music before starting to listen to rap. Mine just happened a couple years earlier. But this album, honestly, my main purpose of it was a study album throughout university. I would throw it on when I had to do a lot of like lab reports and shit like that I really loved doing. It's not like the best music ever, but it means a lot to me. Okay, I don't really want to take these guys off the wall because I want to use it for recording tomorrow. Birds in a Trap Sing McKnight by Travis Scott. Very underrated album by him. I actually like it more than Astroworld these days. So yeah, there's that. Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino. Super risky album from Gambino, but also like literally paid off so well because it's some of the best music he's made. Food by MF Doom. My favorite Doom album. I know people like Mad Villainy more, but I love this album more. It's more concise and more like gets to the point better. Lupe Fiasco, Tetsuo and Youth. Literally a Rubik's Cube mixed with like a jigsaw puzzle in an album with really good production. Playboi Carti's Playboi Carti. I don't really care for his self-titled mixtape. I just really like this album cover. And Gorillaz Humans. Same exact situation. Like my least favorite Gorillaz album. Just love the art style in this one. Honestly, yeah, literally question mark above my head for why do I own this? It's not great. It's not great. But it does capture a certain era into like one CD. So I guess that's why I bought it. Now this Deadmau5 album was my jam. You could even see holographic kitty cat in there. The Velt, Maths. Just nice and energetic electronic music, but a little bit more progressive electronic on this one. An insane spread of an album. You can do like a money spread with this album. I really had to remember what I did to get this album. In 2021, I was invited to be on TV virtually for this Grammy presentation, and then they sent everyone that was participating a gift box, but my gift box had nothing but nail polish in it. What the hell is happening here? Is that Dua Lipa? Dua Peep. Do they think I'm a woman? They must think I'm a woman. I sent a video myself. They know I'm a man. Color sealer for color treated hair. Yo, I can become a streamer. That's kind of weird, right? I said, wow, is this for women? Just because there's some cosmetic stuff here? No, I received about 12 nail polishes. Bruh. They're really trying to make me a streamer. And nothing wrong if you use it. I personally don't. But this was the best thing that came out of it. Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia. Low-key her best album. I've not heard a better album from her than this. Dr. Dre's Compton. Kind of underrated actually. A lot of like heavy hitting beats on this and some really good topics Dre's kind of picked out on this. It's no Detox and it's probably nowhere near Detox's peak quality. I'm glad we got at least some final Dr. Dre album. Will he make another one? Who knows? Drake's So Far Gone. I'll be honest, it was up for a 2-for-1 deal and I got this one. But best I ever had's on here, and that's a certified classic. Baby, you my everything, you all I ever wanted. What the fuck is this? Another Eminem album, The Eminem Show, and I've realized I really don't care for this album. I never really did. I think it's his voice and the production on this album I don't really care about. Oh man. I just see this album cover, Joji's Ballads 1, and I want to put it on, turn off all the lights, and weep. I know lo-fi music is just like minimalistic pop / R&B, but this man does this shit so well. I still don't have Nectar. I love this album, and I think even Smithereens had some high points on it. Outkast, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. I think there's one video where I say this stupid thing where this is my favorite Outkast album. For a 90s sounding album, which this definitely is, it's one of my favorite ones for sure. I mean, it's their first album. They're not doing anything crazy on here, but shows a lot of promise, especially on Big Boy's flow and Andre's verses. And then moving on, literally like 6 years later, they were able to make a best hits album because their first 4 albums had so much good stuff on. Oh god, I forgot that they like adding milkers on their CD, so I can't open that, but it's just the greatest hits albums and easy access to those tracks. Another greatest hits album, this time it's A Tribe Called Quest. I have their best album here, The Low End Theory. Really cool CD too on this. You see their faces there. Just great jazzy uplifting rap in a way, done in such a nice tasteful way. Rest in peace to Phife Dawg, man. Final stretch here, MF Doom and Mad Villainy. MF Doom and Madlib. Mad Villainy. Bad Villain. Yeah, that one. Possibly the greatest album cover of all time. And it's definitely a classic album. It's just a lot harder to listen through fully than Food is. So that's kind of why I prefer this one. But fantastic album. I mean, if you know, you know. ASAP Rocky's at long last. ASAP Rocky's at long last ASAP. Extremely underrated Rocky album. Are you fucking serious? Did that just happen? Why did the case just yeet itself? It's not even broken. It just the door thing popped off. Anyway, extremely good, trippy, but also like kind of experimental album from Rocky. Maybe it wasn't pushing it as much as Testing was, which is why I preferred this album more. It's just more accessible and more fun to listen to. But this begs the question, where the hell is Rocky? We need a new album. I'll do a 2-for-1 here just because it's the same artist. Anderson .Paak Malibu, Anderson .Paak Oxnard. I foolishly said on a community post the other day that I like this album and no one else seems to. This album gets a lot of love. But this one's also pretty underrated too. Some great features, really funky singing from Anderson .Paak on some of the tracks. This man can do it all. He can sing, he can rap, he can play the drums, he can make you cry, he can do everything. And we made it to the end. This is the last one. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. I mean, one of the greatest rap albums ever made. Do I even have to go into details for this one? Lavish production, lavish lyrics. It's kind of funny of how over the top lavish this album can get. Super charismatic and just a lot of beautiful musical passages in this. Like, think about the Dark Fantasy intro, think about the Runaway outro, Devil in a New Dress. Come on now. And that's it, gang. Thanks for joining the CD tour haul thing. I have a list of CDs that I want to buy, so maybe once I buy new ones, I'll update you. But if you see someone asking about CDs in the comments, refer them to this video. Again, appreciate you for 100K. I talked for like an hour and a half straight. I'm cooked. Come see me on twitch.tv/whatsthebuzz.